And now, after reviewing how we should talk to our Swedish partners, let's do something very, very practical. Meanwhile, I will say who they are. So we have here Tonis Yogeva from One Office. He will be also the moderator today. And he's from the company which actually is active in all Baltic states, Nordic countries and UK. We have Jenny Köpper, the expert and CEO from Food Collective. They are working with food companies and helping them to enter Swedish market. We will have also Fredrik Ehrenkrona. Fredrik is from, he's Swede, but he's working for a Lithuanian company, which is has its brand, you will explain better, which called Orica Packaging. And two people online. So Vilja Vishunaite, you see right there in the corner, from Trinity Urix, award-winning legal expert. And unfortunately, Jutta Lander got sick today, so she will join, hopefully.
Yes.
Join us on Oh, great. Good to see you. From Expand Abroad Service, also helping companies to find their partners and find legal and market ground in Sweden. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
I think I'll stand at first. Thank you for having me here, kind of being the moderator. It's an honor. Thank you for this opportunity. I had a couple of conversations during the coffee break, and I did hear people flying in from Lithuania, actually. So I was thinking that maybe we can just raise hands and you could tell me who came in with a plane here. And who's living locally here? Okay. And who's actually having a company here in Sweden? Okay, so we have everybody. All right, good. But there are basically blocks. We put this into, Jenny actually gave me a really good tip here. And I think let's start with the market research. I mean, you have a product, you have a service, but you have no idea, does it fit into the Swedish market? Is there a demand for it? Is it somehow, I don't know, useful for Swedes? All that is something that you should do before you even kind of establish a company or hire anybody or whatever. So I'm thinking how to approach this problem, like is your service or product in the Sweden market even, will it fly here or not? Would you do the research independently or would you hire an agency? How to approach this problem, this with your product, with your service? Again,
the question is for me.
It doesn't matter. Like
okay.
Whoever wants to answer this can answer this.
So first, we have a company supporting other companies entering the Swedish market. And since we started for 5 years ago, we have now more than 30 companies in Sweden, 3 of them from the Baltics. And what I always recommend is to first start doing the market research and understand the scope where you are entering. We are mainly focusing on food, and some companies, they say, oh, let's go to Sweden, and we drop a product and it will fly. That never happens. You cannot just try and the product will fly. And then we start with seeing first if it is a demand for the product, what about the consumer preferences, and how is the market going, and which channels is your product suitable for.
But is this kind of something you can really directly help, or you could refer somebody that does this market research? Because again, it's a different culture, different country. How to practically really get this information?
This is something we support the companies by doing. And it is more than just searching on the internet.
I also think a good idea in this is there's one leg looking if your product will work, and the cultural aspect is something else. So when you're looking for what type of product you can add to the market, the next stage would be to think about how you would actually proceed when entering the market. But there's two different levels of this, so you have to start with the stage where Jenny is right now before even thinking about the cultural part of the sales.
Yeah, that's true. So we normally, sometimes we recommend that maybe you shouldn't go. And the key is to have the product that it is relevant for the Swedish consumers.
Yep.
And for me, it's really troublesome because what we do is we register the companies in Sweden and we provide them the accounting service. But quite often we see that people from Baltic states, from Poland, they enter into the market too quickly in a sense that they do their registration and suddenly feel that something should happen now. That something like my product or service should now kind of be in demand. So yeah, I think it's a big issue. Like how to evaluate if it's a reasonable decision or not.
Yeah, and it takes longer time in Sweden than in other markets also. That's something I experience, that people from Poland and from the Baltics, they think it will happen overnight.
Yeah.
Then also looking at statistics, basically the mouth-to-mouth part of sales in Sweden are about 76% of your total growth. So if you think marketing campaigns on Facebook or going into the market and scream, "Here I am," I'm sorry, it's the wrong market. Sweden won't do it. Sweden will be evaluating you. They will check you out. They will read in your web page. If you can't back up what's in your web page, there's no point even going there. They will check you personally in LinkedIn to see what your background is, to evaluate if what you're saying in the meeting is accurate for your experience. So therefore, you have to build the trust in Sweden. And when you enter in the market and you start making clients, the mouth-to-mouth part of growing your business would be more important. So take care of your clients instead of constantly like sharks going after wild bait all the time. Because the part of growing, expanding together with someone will give you opportunities with the next one, because they will speak with a friend. And that friend might know someone. And the person who might know someone might say something during a dinner to someone who might know someone, and then you have a deal, because that will eventually turn around. And sometimes also in Sweden, if you make like a big initiative, you're going out, you're meeting clients, you won't hear anything for a year. And eventually they come back and ask you to participate in a huge tender. And therefore, you might be highly considered as a good prospect for this potential client, but they never showed you this. They never spoke to you about this. They just rejected you directly a year ago. So therefore, Swedish market, as you say, we are slow. We are very cultural, built on you have to build trust, you have to earn your trust, and you have to prove your trust. And it's a human-to-human interaction. It's not business to business anymore. And that is the first step of starting making actual profits in Sweden after the research of a product.
And just to confirm what you are saying, we founded the company for a bit more than 5 years ago. It took me 4 years until I got the first deal outside my network.
Wow.
Yeah? And then I've been in the industry for 30 years.
Okay. It's not easy to hear. But I know that Jutta, maybe a question to you about this. Like again, practically, we've been to a couple of like events, conferences in Sweden, and Jutta also goes with his or her clients. So is that like a good way to start touching the market? Like you go to a conference or an event, just talk with people and then understand, is your product ready or your service ready for the market, or what would you say about that?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, to visit different exhibition, it's a good start. If you want to do a lot of the market research on your own, I mean, this would be the perfect way of doing it. Yeah, but this is not this is just very small part of it. So still, I mean, you should do a proper research. I mean, either buy some reports or using some companies who can sort of do the research and also how to position the product or services that you provide. But definitely, I mean, exhibitions are best way to connect and see different trends, products, and see if you can find any similarity or how your product, for example, differs from other competitors. This is because this is something, you know, when you live in, for example, in Sweden, and for example, Lithuanian company contacts you and say, okay, I have this great product, and I would like to, you know, start to sell it in Sweden. As a person living in Sweden, I already know without maybe doing a lot of research to understand, does this, you know, product, you know, suit for the market or not? You know, it's yeah. So that's why you should definitely be curious about the on your own visiting exhibitions, and at the same time you either buy the report when it's consumer product, of course, then you can buy different reports, or you hire a company to do everything.
Okay, I'll just add that a lot of us here, I think, already are part of this Lithuanian professionals in Stockholm, this membership. But there are other this kind of organizations. I definitely recommend kind of looking into what they're doing, because I hear they visit different factories in Sweden. They do similar events like this, and just to kind of be present and find those contacts. And Vilja, I want to include you in as well. So if you're ready to also add a little bit here, you can do so. But my next topic anyway is going to be the like regulatory things, licenses. So I think I know you're strong there. But if you want to add into this market research topics, Optic, you're free to do so, Vilja.
Yeah, I can start. Do you hear me well?
Sorry?
Do you hear me well?
Little bit silent, but maybe you can turn up the volume.
Okay, I will try to be louder.
Okay.
I don't want to be a party pooper, but there are a lot of things you have to do before entering the market and before putting the product in front of the consumer. And there are certain things that you have to do still in your country of origin, let's say Lithuania, and there are things that you can do when you are already on the market. And Sweden is part of the European Union, but definitely every country has its own regulations, like certain regulations. And I would start from the trademark research, because trademark usually is one of the things that keeps the goods from coming into the certain market. And if your trademark is not protected in Sweden, or there is the similar or identical trademark for the same good and services in Sweden, you can forget about the market. Then you have to change the trademark before you enter the market and before you reach the consumer. That's one of the things. Then we talked about food, and the food industry is very much regulated. So you have to check the regulations in food industry, whether the certain product can be sold at all in Swedish market, or I don't know, we are now very much fond of ECG requirements, how certain product reflects the requirements in Sweden. So these are the homeworks that every company that wants to enter the foreign market, it's not necessarily Sweden, but any foreign market, has to do before addressing the consumer and doing the research there.
Where could one actually find this information? Does Sweden have like governmental official websites where you can find whether your service or product is regulated? Does it have any like import duties, anything like that? Is there like information where you can start off from, just do independent research? Or again, this is a place where you definitely need to hire like a legal representation and be ready for everything. Vilja, I think this is for you again.
Yeah, Sorry to say that, but the start can be a bit expensive because lawyers, not here in Lithuania, but in Sweden, they're expensive, and it's very advisable to hire a lawyer because it can be tricky otherwise. So of course, you can check the requirements yourself, but it does not necessarily be the latest version, or I don't know, there might be some others that may interfere with each other. We can check trademarks from Lithuania. Lawyers can check trademarks from Sweden. That's no problem. But when it comes to like more detailed requirements, I don't know, for food industry, for automotive industry, then well, I would suggest you consult a lawyer, because just the website might not work.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same. Personally, when handling the customers, when we do kind of legalize the business in Sweden, it seems they often expect from me that I also know everything about every regulation, everything that might come up, every account they might need to open to get the product or service standardized or regulated. So I'm in a pickle in a sense that they expect everything to be done by me and my team, but it's not really possible. So what's your 2 cents about it? Your experience on this matter, like regulated products and services, how to approach this?
Since we are working with it, it is within our scope. And we support the brands from the factory out to the shelf. And then the regulatory is part of it to secure that the product is compliant. And it is like what we just heard, about 90% is the same with all European market. It is just some differences between Sweden and other European markets. And I think in our case, we know the differences.
Okay, it's again a bit difficult for us because we don't really know in the audience what the exact business activity or industry are you in. Would be good if somebody shouts something, is it regulated or not? But do you actually have this on hand knowledge that if somebody says I'm doing, I don't know, construction on a governmental, I don't know, special security site, is it regulated and how and what?
I can somehow consider it also, if you want to leave your home market and entering a new market, you have to invest. And I'm not only talking about investment in money, you also have to invest in your time and in how to learn and how to approach and how to do. So if you're moving into a food market, you would need some certain regulations or certificates to sell food in another country. You have to source for these yourself. You can't just lean back and wait for someone else to do the business for you. So the first interpretation, how to enter a new market, must be your own way of seeing, this is the way I want to go. I want to be into this market, and then I have to do all the efforts needed to get into this market. And of course, there's going to be money involved, and there's going to be a lot of people involved, but you have to do your own research, not just call someone and say, please do it for me, because you would never sell like that, because you would need to enter in the market as well. And as Jenny says, you have the services and someone can pay you for the services to get it going. But if they don't even reach out to you with, we think we need these 5, why even bother going to a new market? You have to personally invest yourself in going into export.
It's definitely is a topic that needs like very case. It's very case dependent. Like if somebody wants to talk more closely about it, maybe after this panel. Jutta, I think you didn't get any word on this subject.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would like to add, I mean, of course, if it's a complicated cases, I mean, regulations or these kind of things, of course, you have to hire a lawyer to get right answers. But in some cases, for example, there are many organizations in Sweden where you can reach out to ask some help with the regulations. For example, Swedish Food Agency, you can easily find information even in English with a lot of good information. For example, packaging, recycling, organic food and all these kind of regulations that are required. I mean, these are more like a basic things that you have to cover. But of course, when it comes to little bit complex regulations or that, of course, then I mean, then you have to ask some more help. And for example, the Swedish Board of Agriculture, I mean, this is also a great organization. I mean, for example, right now I have a case where I'm looking into wool and sheep skin products, if there are any specific regulations. And this kind of information is really easy to find for the client, you know, if they even can start, you know, to export these products in Sweden. So yeah, I just wanted to add that not all questions are answered by a lawyer. So there are a lot of organizations that you can reach out to and get some basic or answers.
Kind of. I was about to like ask, are we scaring people too much entering the market? It's not that scary.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Jenny has another opinion. Okay. But all right. Moving on, I think if you are comfortable, you can sleep at night, and you think you've done your market research and you know your product or service is up to the standards in Sweden, then practically, what are the strategies to enter the market? I know a couple of ways because I've heard from customers how they do it, but the most straightforward way is that they just establish a company and then start doing this old school thing that, hey, do you want my product? Hey, do you want my service? But I've also heard that it's also possible to maybe find a company that's up for sale. Of course, that means a lot of investments. Maybe there's a way that you could find a partner who kind of, with together a local partner in Sweden, together you open a new company or new enterprise and do that kind of market entry. What else is there? And you can comment on my options as well. Are they reasonable or not? Jenny, maybe you start.
In our case, we support the companies in selling their products. So that is, and then first it is to secure that the product is relevant. And there we have, just like what about ICA, they will not take in a product just because to be kind. It has to be a business behind it. So we start with a business case to both for the company and also for when we present it to ICA or to someone else. Now I say ICA because you are here. Yeah.
But I mean, is it reasonable for somebody, let's say from Lithuania or Latvia, Estonia, to think that they can even get into this market this way, like pitch their product through you to ICA or somebody else? Is it a reasonable assumption? What should you do really in the background?
If it starts with a relevant product that is relevant for the Swedish consumers, but that is not a guarantee for success. But you can't succeed without a good product. And except for the product, you need to build the distribution, meaning that you reach out to many doors. If it is about restaurants, you say doors, or if it is to stores. For that, and then you start one by one, and you can't buy success. You need to work for it. And then once you have created a business body, then it is much easier also to reach out to chains. And in some cases, when it is a food service product, we reach out to the chains directly. And then with a chain, I mean, it could be a burger chain, or it can be a restaurant chain, or to companies supplying schools.
Okay, I'll add here and give a word to Jutta that one way also that I've heard that people do it, and my customers have done so, is they hire somebody in Sweden, like a sales representation or a marketing person who then starts kind of scouring the market, making ads or just making contacts. Jutta, is that a reasonable strategy?
Well, that's the most expensive way of entering, but in some cases, it has been also very successful. It depend on the services or products the company provide. So, for example, staffing company or in construction industry when they are selling tools or these kind of services, I mean, it's necessary that you have a local person hired because then they can sort of visit construction companies and also sell the tools directly to them. So in some cases, yeah, this is really reasonable. But of course, you can always use consultant services. They can help you to open the doors before hiring people. So yeah. But yeah, this is definitely an option, but it's very expensive because you have to at least, account with, at least maybe 1 million Swedish crowns per year. To hire the person and to budget. So yeah, so it doesn't come for free.
Very good. We're already moving to the budget part. We'll get to that as well about numbers. But Vilja, I was also thinking that again, this acquisition, it's very interesting to me. How to find somebody's company who's up for sale, basically? Like, is there a database or like? I mean, I know you have like on hands thing that you get the deal through, basically negotiate the deal. But is there a way to find that kind of company that's ready to be acquired?
Well, I'm sure there are like not a lot, but one can find some companies that are on sale. But I would say that as a lawyer, I would say that this is the last thing that I would recommend to my client to do, because you don't know what's behind that company. And as a lawyer, I have to talk about responsibility. And once you decide, or before you decide actually, on the way you're going to do your business in Sweden, either you establish a new company, or you do the joint activity with somebody, or you hire the agent, the first thing you have to think of is your responsibility. If something goes wrong and the company can go bankrupt, then you have to understand what's going to be at the end, what is your personal responsibility at the end of the day. Are you going to pay some money, or just the company will be dissolved and that's it? And also, talking about responsibility, I would suggest to look at the contracts that you sign very much. And I don't know, if you have problems with one of the biggest chains in Sweden regarding quality of the product, what's going to be then? And then I would strongly suggest to have a proper place of jurisdiction, because Sweden is a very expensive country to litigate if you go to that point of your relationship with your partner. And but Sweden is very famous for the arbitration, so maybe arbitration can be the outcome here. So look at these responsibility clauses, because that if when everything is fine and we are having good relationship, there's no need to look at the contract. But once you have problems, this paper will work.
Okay, yeah, there's a question already.
My personal recommendation for the Baltic companies when they want to come to Sweden, I say, guys, relax. I know how they are thinking that, okay, I have in a partnership big retailer and my sales will fly. I will go on a vacations to Maldives, All the time I'm saying, try on a smaller scale to feel the market, to understand, because if you fail with a big player in the market, as Vilja said, there are so many legal consequences. You will ruin your name and the country's even name forever in this country. And as well, it's in a benefit for yourself, and be ready not for the one-time business good shot, but for sustainable longer term business.
Sounds like a good advice. Jenny, you want to add something on top of that?
No, I'm just confirming to say it's step by step, and don't aim to jump in volumes just because you get a listing in ICA. And, that's not a good idea because it also requires cash flow. It's not only you need to deliver if you get a full listing as well. Yeah. So only this year, 2 Swedish companies came to me because they were bankrupt because they got the listing at ICA.
Okay.
But that's not to blame ICA. That's not to blame ICA.
Okay, interesting.
I would like to add to that. For us as a start, like Jutta said, I am the type of expensive tryout where I am a Swedish person employed for Lithuanian company in Sweden with Swedish laws in a Swedish company owned by the Lithuanian owners. So I'm basically the most expensive solution. But what happened is they already made sales with Sweden for 10 years before starting this entity. So they already know that the Swedish market is open for our type of products. They have tried it out. They have people flying in from Lithuania on a weekly basis to meet clients in Sweden. And therefore you can have an acceleration growth by adding this to the sector. But if you are a startup, if you're a small, medium enterprise is trying to reach the market, it will probably ruin you to try to get a Swedish representative going out to get into the market on a first startup level. Then you would need something like the Food Collective or something that could help you accelerate, try out your products in the market for a fraction of the cost of hiring someone. But after a few years, you've tried it out, then the next step might be moving into Sweden. And of course, probably, Vilja, if you would like to help me here, but opening a company in Sweden with a Swedish organization number is a more severe, safe way to go than trying to operate from Lithuania. Since Swedish companies are quite easy, they usually have 2 accounts, one in euros and one in Swedish kronor. So the euro factor doesn't occur. They buy and sell in euros from a day-to-day basis. But working as a Swedish entity in Sweden helps you out a lot in a juridical way of doing things.
I'll add a couple of notes here because what I hear and see, I hear in this panel and I see every day is that, again, you should test out the product and you can test it out with your legal entity in Lithuania or wherever it might be. Don't need to hire anybody. But again, then I think you need like a distributor or agent who buys that product, like finding that again. So that's a difficult thing. But if you found that distributor, that agent who can sell and your product, your service local in the market, then you can register that company, which is actually a fairly easy thing to do. Takes a little bit of time.
It is not expensive. It's 5,000 euros. And then you own your fully legal entity in Sweden.
It seems like a distributor agent is like the correct way to do it first, or what do you think?
What we know, not to destroy your business idea here, but we normally say during the trial, you can invoice directly from your home market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you can open up a legal entity.
Yeah, for me, it's totally okay because the worst thing that I see is that people come and open the company and then in 6 months or so they want to close it.
Yeah.
Nobody wins in that transaction. It's pointless. We want like long-term partnership.
And you can't go into a market and think you're done in 6 months. You have to think about 2, maybe 3 years before. Like it could be a year before you have your first sale.
But they still have this kind of like ongoing costs for accounting, even if they don't have any activities. Then that's why they usually quite quickly like fold. Okay, I'm done.
And we normally say first take the business first, then the costs.
Okay.
True.
Jutta, probably you have some words here as well. I think quite an expert on this.
Well, not really. It was very good said that it's quite reasonable to start with a small pilot project, which I also recommend to my clients, and often we even take the first step to find new customers. So definitely this is a really welcomed approach, and use the consulting services to find these first clients, so that you can have a little bit turnover, and then you can start to invest even more. So yeah.
Okay, I'll close off, but you probably want to comment here. When people come to me, then again, let's say it is a reasonable idea to make a company, to start this enterprise in Sweden. Then quite often they say that, again, then I say to them that, well, you really don't need to create a company. Instead, like test it out, do with your export maybe, find somebody who buys your export, and you can do it that way. But what they reply to me is that the Swedes, hey, the Swedish partner that I potentially can secure, they want me to register like a local company. Is that something that resonates here, or this is like maybe just anecdote that I've heard?
No. But it's a funny thing that I said in the beginning. It's a lot about building trust. And a lot of trust will be that you invested in the Swedish market, opening a Swedish company. That's like tick one in the box, that you made your investment, you started a company in Sweden. But there's no issue for a Swedish company generally to make sales or procurements in English. There's no stoppages buying directly from your factory or your home company in Lithuania, but you would like to have, the Swedish company as a security, even though the invoices are coming directly from your factory in Lithuania. So the Swedish company doesn't make any money. The Swedish company doesn't exist in the transaction between you two, but the Swedish company is like an assurance that we invested into the Swedish market. We're here to stay, and we're here to calm you, and we want to be part of your journey as a client. Exactly. The same rules are super important, that if you open a company in Sweden, you will follow Swedish law. But European law and Swedish law are very close to each other. So if you follow as you should in Lithuania, the European Union laws, there's not much to change to reach the Swedish market in that sense.
It's an interesting situation that ideally or legally you don't need to do this kind of thing. You don't need to establish anything, but to get that trust, you actually do need.
It's cultural.
It's culture, okay. But maybe a bit more interesting part, even when having a conversation with one man over there during the coffee break, I was asked like, okay, what's the budget? What should I consider is the investment when I want to enter the Swedish market? And I don't have an answer to that because it consists of so many things. Again, market research, how much are you willing to spend to make sure your product, like just to ensure that your product will more or less fly there, even that you can pay for it, but it's not a sure thing. So you still have to work in the background. Then another thing is of course just establishing the company accountancy, then getting the permits, the standardizations, whatever is needed. Again, from case to case, from business to business, it's so different. But is there some kind of number you could recommend or just keep in mind when doing this, maybe this pilot project thing on average?
Okay, a long reply. Normally we start with a business case, and then we make a business case with a timeline. And in the timeline, we make milestones. And if you don't reach the milestones, it is a time for a decision, go or no go. And then we make 3 different scenarios on a 3-year basis. And to reach your 3-year scenario, you know where you have to be after the first year. So that's how we do it. And this is just to make it very, very short. And depending on the kind of product, you can allocate a percentage of the sales, invoiced sales, or you can start with a budget for instance, investing in brand building.
Yeah. Vilja, I don't know, where should I look with that camera? I think Vilja, then you can see me. Hi. I think lawyers and kind of getting permits and everything regulated, everything okay with your paperwork, that's maybe one of the most expensive thing entering? Maybe not. I'm not sure. But what's your opinion here? Is there some kind of budget you can recommend, or how do you approach this?
Well, as I said, I would start from the trademark protection, and a couple of thousands of euros might be enough to have a trademark protected in whole European Union. Then you're covered in Sweden also and in other countries. I would start from that. But when it comes to company registration, it can be it's not a few thousand, because you still have to put the capital in it. And I think you can elaborate more on the establishment of a joint stock company in Sweden more, because you're doing this business, because there are some additional fees, like a lawyer's fees there. Yeah, it depends what you're doing. But definitely it needs the investment.
Okay, Jutta, you maybe had some couple of successful examples where people really came in like rookies into Sweden and started fresh. And have you made like a calculation that over the course of this project, this client spent, I don't know, X number on getting being successful in the market?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are different numbers, of course. I mean, based on my previous experiences, of course, I can give some kind of reference, but it doesn't really apply on every companies. But you should at least. I mean, it depends on, as we spoke about previously about the market research. There are different ways of doing market research. I mean, in some cases you can buy a market research for maybe 50,000, but at the same time, you know, you do one-time investment, but some has to analyze the research, the market research, and also position your product. So you need to add at least 100 or 200,000 on top of that. So yes, I mean, yeah, there are different numbers, but I mean the minimum really, if you just when it comes to market research, yeah, maybe it's 50,000 and up. But yeah, as I mentioned, if you hire someone, it costs you 500,000 and more. So yeah, I mean, there are different numbers. But my recommendation is to do market research, and then after that, the next step is to do a business plan. Then you can sort of get the understanding how much money do you need to invest to enter to a new market. So, and yeah. So that's why it's really hard to give exact number like a standard.
Knew this gonna happen. It is hard to give this kind of number, but at least you got like from all 5 perspectives what it could cost: legal, market entry. Yeah, of course you have to consider in like currency. You have Swedish kronor here compared to euro. If you invoice in one and receive in another currency, what happens then, and things like that.
Okay, just to contribute with a scope of the brands we have worked with, the brand invested least with most success, now listed at ICA, they invested 9,000 euros. The one investing most is about 500,000 euros, not listed at ICA. So it is just to understand how big the range is, which makes it difficult. Absolutely. And that's also why it's so important to have to make these scenarios and business cases with milestones, because then you know how to manage the risk, because it is a risk.
Okay, I also got a cue that we had 5 minutes. That was probably 2 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago. And my final topic was about culture. Fredrik, good at that as a local Swede, but I think the previous presenter did a lot of work for you. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think he covered up very much what you need to think about going into a Swedish market. We used to make a joke about the Swedish no, which is maybe. If you ever heard the word maybe, or you heard the word you can email me, or let's discuss later, you are very close to the no side. And this is cultural thing. Swedish people are afraid of conflicts, and saying no to someone might encourage you with a conflict, which means you are saying everything as polite as you can to get rid of the person without saying no. And that could lead you to a very tough decision, because you think you are closing in on a deal because you had a maybe. A positive maybe is close to a yes. A Swedish maybe is very close to a no. And you're waiting, you're being patient, you're asking, you're sending emails once a week. You're asking. It's been 3 months now, and the client still responds that, oh, we haven't decided yet, maybe. You have to let these type of clients go, because they will consume you, they will eat you up from the inside, and they will take all your efforts. You have to let them go and reach into a new client or search for a new market. And this is a typical type of cultural things when I'm speaking with my Lithuanian colleagues, when they say, yeah, I called this Swedish company. They were super nice. They invited me. They had fika. They had everything on spot. They were super polite. We shaked hands, almost hugged when we leave. And I said, yeah, but did you send an offer? Yeah, I sent an offer. Did they say anything about the offer? No? Okay, so you just basically send them a paper. It could be an advertisement. You don't know. So therefore, Swedish culture is quite hard to understand that the process starts when you're starting to have deep conversations after offering stage. Everything before that is just to ensure, for them to ensure that you are a solid person, that you are for real, and that you build trust during that process. It doesn't matter what you say in the meeting, as long as you build trust as a person. Which is really interesting, because I'm also making sales in Finland, and they say yes or they say no. And then you understand.
Thanks, Frederick. Neda, do we have time for questions as well? I think people, or what we do now?
Yes, we should have questions, because this perhaps was the most important session for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If there are any questions, you're welcome.
Thank you. As you said, Fredrik, the cultural differences is great. We don't think it's so close countries, but it is. I'm from the honorary consul in Lithuania in Malmö, and then I recommend the Swedish company to buy from the Lithuanian enterprises. And then I check it up later. The Swedish company say, no, the Lithuanian companies are not interested. So I say, why not? Yeah, because when we asked if they could produce this product, they said, okay, it is possible. Or they can say, I'm not against. And we Swedes think that they are not interested. But on the other hand, from the Lithuanian side, they were of course interested when they said it is possible. So the Lithuanians should be actually more active in marketing. I've also met the Lithuanian companies with at Swedish exhibitions, and they said, you Swedish are not interested in our products. And I said, okay, how could that be? Where are you in your stand? Yeah, we are sitting here waiting, and we are not coming in. I said, you must go out and stop them and say, this is a great opportunity for you to buy. So this is a little difference.
Yeah, and also what's interesting is that you would need to directly say yes to a Swedish person for him to understand, but a Swedish person will never respond with a yes. And that's exactly what you're saying. You know, Swedish people go to an exhibition, you show your products as a Lithuanian producer, and you say, oh, yeah, interesting. Could work, maybe. And then you leave. And in that sense, you have to be super clear against the Swedish person, but the Swedish person will never give you clear advice back.
Jenny,
I'm sorry, but it's culture.
Jenny wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's right about the fairs. So we have now started to, with the companies we are working with, we are working together with the local companies that are entering the Swedish with 1 or 2 persons from our team. And that is working very well, because then it is learning by example how to approach the Swedish buyers. So we never sit in the back playing with our phones. You know, we are standing there proactive, meeting the customers. And the good thing is also that in a fair, we have our network, so the people we know, they come to the stand, and then you can start a dialogue. So that is working very, very well, and I can highly recommend that model.
One there. Someone added about taxes and grants and how our new companies may be supported. Is that right?
So there are two things. Even though we appreciate innovation a lot, and I think our government supported with subsidies, and we have several programs in Sweden. Once you have a product ready for the market, it is not always enough to be innovative. And I come back to this, it also has to be relevant for the consumers. And my general advice is to aim for the money and make something people understand. If you have a product you need to explain, it will be too hard to sell.
But yeah, please add.
There might be no. I think you're excellent. I just think it might be worthwhile to understand how to innovate. It's not just the product; it's also the marketing. It's also the packaging, the brand building, the whole vibe around the product. Where I think you can see that many of the cool new products, for instance, the Oatly ones that was served with the coffee, I think is a clear example of that. How you have innovated in other areas than just the product.
Yeah, but also, are you selling the innovation or are you selling the product? Like a vacuum cleaner, a robot. If you go into the market with a robot vacuum cleaner, are you telling them that we spent 400,000 hours of engineering time? Or do you say, this will clean for you by yourself? You don't even have to touch it. Which part would the consumer buy? So when entering the market, of course, you need to be innovative. You have to make the innovation work from your start. Without innovation, you don't even have a product. But when going to the market, innovation is not a sales key. It's a hygiene factor because you need the product. So you have to more think about, as Johan says, in a smart way, how can I be innovative in marketing? How can I tell people that my product is better than the rest in the market? How can I make people use my product without the effort? Because people would like to buy things and it works by itself. Even food, you would like to buy food which is already cooked. Otherwise, takeout services wouldn't exist. So this is the same for everything. And takeout services sell by, the easy way. You go into an application, you press what you want, 15 minutes later, you're eating. You don't even have to cook. So you're buying the service of someone doing something for you, as with all your products going into a new market. So the innovation part is super important as a startup phase. But when going to market, you don't need to say, oh, this product is super inventive, because super inventive usually means super hard or complex, and people get shy and walk away.
Okay, Vilja, I was thinking that it was also asked about just one final thing. It's very important, I think, grants and subsidies by the government. Do you have any insights there, or maybe Jutta, you have? But Vilja, you can start if you have some information about it.
Well, I'm sure there are some grants, and if we come to Lithuania, our innovation agency, there are like a lot of programs that you can apply, and it also relates to the export, if we can call export to Swedish market, but it's like the other market, reach other markets. So for Lithuanian companies, we do have a lot of programs that they can apply to, and well, I would start from Lithuania and see what is there. But I'm very sorry to say we had some ground for the trademark registrations, but it ended yesterday. So everybody's late. Sorry to say that. So yeah, there are like a lot of things, especially for innovation. You just need to search, and I'm sure you'll find something.
Okay, thank you, Via, and I think we have to end. Neda is here. Thank you, everybody, participating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We learned a great deal from market to legal entity to innovations and even money. So lots we have covered, and not just in this panel. We really lived up to our promise, right? We bridged actually not just Sweden and Lithuania. We bridged industries, we bridged innovation, markets, and cultures. So I'm very glad for you. I hope you had good time. I would like once again to thank our presenters, thank our sponsors, and thank you all.